And now on BBC Radio 4, Little Green Men by Ed Ford and Charlie Morris.
In Syria, it's still Russian bombers that dominate the skies.
This is the Little Green Men podcast, the show where we deconstruct Russian military aggression since the fall of the Soviet Union. In this episode, we head to Syria, where the Russian PMC known as the Wagner Group head to the port of Damascus. Their fight is with ISIS and the rebellion known as the Free Islamic Army. To understand why the Wagner Group is active in Syria, we have to understand why Russia is. Many believe that Putin is supporting Bashar's regime to secure Russian interests in the Middle East. Since the late 90s, the West has had a significant presence in the Middle East, and it's likely that Russia is trying to create the same kind of presence. Syria has been in a state of civil war since 2014, when people began to resist against the regime. The rebels call themselves the Free Islamic Army, and have been fighting Bashar's regime as well as the Islamic State.
Russia and the United States both deployed peacekeepers to the country. However, the Russian military provided the regime with support from the air. Russian Su-25s conducted airstrikes across major cities that had been contested by rebel forces. While the US did deploy special forces and conduct drone strikes across Syria, all were against ISIS targets, allowing the West to stay out of the civil war. At this time, the Russian PMC, known as the Wagner Group, had over 2,000 mercenaries in their ranks and would play a major role in the tide of the civil war.
In late October, Wagner contractors started arriving in Syria and were first spotted in action amongst Syrian troops in the recapture of Palmyra and Al-Shaya. The towns had fallen into ISIS control only a few weeks prior, with much of the population fleeing towards rebel-controlled villages. Members of the Wagner Group acted as advisors, aiding the Syrians with airstrikes and tactical advice. Armoured columns of unmarked BMPs began patrolling territory under ISIS control, engaging the militants awaiting in ambush.
The Islamic State hadn't prepared for Russian resistance, expecting to have an easy victory against the worse equipped, less organised army of the regime. Russian mercenaries of the Wagner Group allowed the Syrian army to punch through into towns and begin recapturing territory taken by ISIS. Progress was smooth until late December, when the Free Islamic Army heightened their number of attacks in the north while continuing to hold the city of Aleppo. Out of the chaos emerged Wagner's most infamous and controversial video, the cruel and brutal murder of Syrian defector Mohammed Abdullah al-Ismail.